White is a bad man.
What's up, YouTube? It's your boy IJ here, back with another edition of the Honest Talking podcast. And I know what you're thinking. You didn't post yesterday, but you're posting on Tuesday. So, as a college student, as a current college student right now, the way my schedule was prior to this week was looking completely different. That's why I made it to where I posted on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But now, things have kind of like changed over my schedule a little bit. Not anything drastic, but just one of my classes has changed over the couple weeks, and now I have more free time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So with that, I just decided to just go ahead and switch it up and now post on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So from here on out until, further notice, going to be posting on every Tuesday and Thursday. So if you guys are available at 5 o'clock, make sure you guys tune in. I will keep on clipping, certain segments from each episode so you guys can listen to that segment on YouTube. So that's what the schedule's gonna look like. But let's we got that out of the way. Let's go ahead and get right to week 3 of the NFL. Now before we get started, as always, gotta give honor to God, because without him I wouldn't be able to do this. And real just quick motivation, just keep your head up. Okay, just keep your head up. If you're going through anything, just keep your head up and know that God loves you and that you got a lot of important people that love you. So if you're ever feeling down, just keep your head up and stay motivated. That's all I got to say about that. But let's go ahead and get right into it. So the New Orleans Saints hosted the Philadelphia Eagles this past Sunday. It was a game that was a defensive battle. It was a defensive battle for both teams. The Eagles were able to pull away, though, and end up winning the game 15-12. They had a hard time getting things going through the first 3 quarters, but then once the fourth quarter came, they turned up. Saquon Barkley had that huge run, and they ultimately won the game. Now, granted, they made some questionable decisions throughout that whole game. Nick Sirianni with his play calling. The Saints did, too. The Saints had that one play where they went for it on 4th and 1 where they could have had the field goal, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it was a real good game, real defensive battle. And like I said, the Eagles ultimately won the game 15-12. Both teams are now 2-1 heading into week 4. And to look at the stats real quick, so let's start off with the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, 38 passing attempts completed, 29 of them, threw for 311 pass yards with 1 interception and 0 touchdowns. So Jalen Hurts, he also had the fumble losses too. So Jalen Hurts, not a bad game, but not a overall good game from his standard. Didn't have a touchdown, but he did throw for a lot of yards. He did have that one completion to Dallas Goedert that ultimately helped the Eagles go down the field and ultimately win the game for him. And, a lot of improvements for Jalen Hurts. That, by his standard, I know he wants to improve on that next week. Saquon Barkley had a slow start, but then he turned up, like I said, in the fourth quarter. Had 17 rushing attempts for 147 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. One being that 65-yard rushing touchdown. Dallas Goedert, 10 receptions for 170 receiving yards. Devontae Smith, 7 receptions for 79 receiving yards as well. So the Eagles, this was a good game for them. It was a good bounce-back game after that, showing against the Falcons. And it was like the script kind of, flipped for them. Against Atlanta, they had the lead. They gave it up, and then Jalen Hurts threw the game-sealing interception. This time it was opposite. They go down, get the lead, and then Derek Carr was the one ended up throwing the game-sealing interception. So I give credit where credit's due. Philadelphia was the better team in this one. It was a hard-fought battle. They were able to, capitalize off the Saints' mistakes. They ultimately got the W. Now, for New Orleans, Derek Carr, 14 pass attempts on 14 completions on 25 passing attempts for 142 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Alvin Kamara, 26 rushing attempts for 87 rushing yards. Chris Olave, 6 receptions for 86 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. And Kamara also chipped in with 3 receptions for 40 receiving yards and no touchdown. So this was a drastic change for the Saints offensively after basically dropping 40 on the Panthers and the Cowboys in the previous weeks. This was the game that kind of, brought them back down to earth. Now, let me provide a little context. Eric McCoy, our center, he left the game after I believe it was 3 snaps with a groin injury, and got some news on him. He's going to be out for the next 6 to 8 weeks according to NFL.com. Going to be out for that for an extended period of time. That's a huge blow for the Saints, and he's going to get surgery on that groin, but at least he'll be back for the season, hopefully. So that sucks for the New Orleans Saints, and you could tell if you watch the game that once he went out the game, the O-line was just different. The O-line, it was like the chemistry on the offensive line is a very underrated part in the NFL. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but if you don't have a good center that's able to man that side of the ball, those guys on the field at the center spot, well, not at the center spot, but on the offensive line, then it's going to be kind of hard for your offensive line to have a good game. So the same way the quarterback mans the offense, the center mans the O-line. Same thing on defense. The middle linebacker, the Mike linebacker, mans like the defense tells, where the defensive line is shifting and all that. And, you know what I'm saying, so forth and so forth. But, yeah, like I said, Eric McCoy, when he went down, the whole complexion of that game changed for the New Orleans Saints. Their offense wasn't able to get going, and I wouldn't say it was a bad performance by the offense, because at that point, what can you do when your center is gone, your mainstay for the offensive line, your main guy on that O-line is not there. He left with injury. So, like I said, it was a tough game, but now at least we know how long he's going to be out, and plus it's next man up mentality now. So Lucas Patrick, that was the guy who was snapping the ball to Derek Carr throughout the duration of that game. I don't know if he'll be starting at that spot next week, but if I was New Orleans, I would probably have Cesar Ruiz, a guy who's more experienced at the center spot, to snap the ball to Derek Carr until further notice. But that's just my opinion on that. But overall, with this game with the Saints, I'm not mad at it. I'm really not. It was disappointing because it was one of those games where you could have won, but I'm kind of glad this game happened to us, because after what we did to Dallas, that was when we started getting the media attention that at the time we rightfully deserved, because the offense was going crazy. But I'm glad this game happened, because now, like I said, it brings the Saints back down to earth, and now it's like a reassessment, okay? We all know this team wasn't going undefeated. We all knew that. And if you thought that, you just delusional. Okay, I had to say that, but you were just delusional in that case. But I knew at some point that this was going to end. Like, this Philly game, I was really iffy about it, because I was confident going into it, but at the same time, I was like, we might just fool around and lose this game. So it happened, okay? I knew this team was going to eventually come back down to earth. I thought it was going to be that Kansas City game, but, we'll see with that game. But that's in a couple weeks. But like I said, I knew that this team eventually was going to come back to earth. Like I said, I knew that they were going to eventually lose 1 or 2 games in this 5-game stretch to start the season. But like I said, it's good that they lost this one early on. Then for them to be let's just say they did go 5-0 or 6-0, and they ended up losing to a team that they shouldn't have lost to. That I would rather this game happen, this loss to happen, than something like that to happen. But like I said, it's just one of those games where you're just gonna have to look at the film, bounce back, and keep pushing, because it wasn't like it was a bad game overall for the team. Like, the defense was balling out, the offense really couldn't get going, but the defense kept the game close. But it was just that one little mistake on the defensive side where they called man-to-man, and then I believe it was Lattimore and I think Howden. They ran into each other. It was either Howden or Will Harris. They ran into each other, and that ultimately led to Dallas Goedert not only getting the first down, but going down the field to help set up that game-sealing drive for the Philadelphia Eagles. But like I say, it's just those minor mistakes that ultimately caused this game. But I believe this team will be all right, and they'll shake back against the Atlanta Falcons. So congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for getting that one. It was a much needed game for them. And as for the Saints, it was kind of a much needed game for us too, because now we can reassess some things, get back to how do I want to word this? Get back to the basics, I guess. Look at film. Look at what was working, what wasn't working, and now the O line. Now that Eric McCoy is out, now this new O line. I'm still iffy about this O line now, but at least now they can have a little bit of practice time with each other. So, like I said, not mad at it, but we all knew it was going to happen. Now the Saints are still number one in the division because of the loss by Tampa Bay to the Denver Broncos, and then the Falcons ultimately lost to the Chiefs, and they're 1-2. So, like I said, things are still early in the season. It's only week 4 this upcoming week, but I'm glad this happened for the Saints case because, like I said, I'd rather it happen early in the season than for us to be on a high horse and we're like, let's just say 10-1, and then we just like lose the next 3 or 4 games in a row. So hopefully this team can move past this game against the Eagles and get prepared for a big divisional game against the Atlanta Falcons. Switching gears now, let's look at the scores from this past week in the NFL. The Jets were able to get a victory over the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football, 24-3. So shout out to the Jets and Aaron Rodgers starting to get things clicking and get things going on the offensive side of the ball. And the defense had one of the best performances against the Patriots this season. Even though the season's still young, still it's good to have your defense go out and play like that against a team like the Patriots, who, no disrespect, I gave them the props, but the Patriots are still a team in rebuild. So again, good win for the Jets. The Giants, they surprised me. They surprised me with this one. They were able to get the victory but against the Cleveland Browns. The Chicago Bears ended up losing to the Colts 21-16. And real quick, the Giants score was 21-15 in favor of the Giants. The Minnesota Vikings are continuing this impressive start to the season. They're 3-0. They defeated the Houston Texans 34-7. I was not expecting that scoreline, but shout out to Sam Darnold and those boys for getting it done. The Steelers are another surprising team with the 3-0 record. They defeated the Chargers 20-10. The Broncos, like I stated, defeated the Buccaneers 26-7. The Packers defeated the Tennessee Titans 30-14. They had to feel good for Malik Willis getting the W against his former team. The Panthers, the team that has been in disarray to start the season, defeated the Las Vegas Raiders 36-22. The Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, back at the starting position in the NFL at the quarterback spot. He was able to will his team to a victory. And that's what this team really needed. That's what this team needed. I'll get into it later on when I'm giving Andy Dalton his prop, but that's what the team needs. They need that spark and they need that momentum. So let's see if they can keep it going for the next couple of weeks and for the rest of the season. The Seahawks were able to defeat the Dolphins 24-3. Now, shout out to the Seahawks. They're 3-0 right now, but I'm going to put an asterisk over that W mainly because we all know what the Dolphins are going through. They don't have the starting quarterback. Skylar Thompson started for them, and, it really wasn't, a fair matchup to begin with. But the Seahawks were able to capitalize off of that, and that's what you're supposed to do. If you're playing against a quarterback who's not that experienced, you're supposed to take advantage of that team. So, shout out to the Seahawks. The Lions were able to defeat the Cardinals 20-13. The Ravens were able to defeat the Dallas Cowboys 28-25. Now, I was watching this game, right? And I was so excited seeing the Ravens actually starting to, put something together against the Dallas Cowboys. Then the fourth quarter came around, and I see the Cowboys recover the onside kick after scoring the touchdown, right? And then they go down and score. They stop the Ravens offensively on the next possession, and they score again. And I'm like, ain't no way the Ravens are about to let this happen to them again. Like, it was like they didn't want to win the game. But they ultimately won the game, man. Even though this was a victory for the Ravens, they can't feel good about this one. Even though it's good to get their first victory, they can't feel good about the way the game, ended. Because you were up 28-6 at one point. And then Dallas ended up scoring, 19 unanswered points? So, yeah. I'm still rocking with the Ravens. I still like them, but they're going to have to improve off of that. 49ers, Rams. And this was a game that was two teams that had banged up guys, a lot of guys on the injury report. And the San Francisco 49ers were actually up in this game. But the Rams ended up defeating them 27-24. Now, I was distracted by Jawan Jennings beating up my fantasy team. And they ultimately lost the game. I was so shocked by that. I was so surprised by it. But shout out to the Rams for, you know, fighting all the elements, fighting all the, the banged up guys, all the injuries, and they were able to get the victory. And then the Chiefs Falcons, like I stated, the Chiefs ended up defeating the Falcons 22-17. And then last night, Monday Night Football, the Jaguars, they got obliterated by the Buffalo Bills. And real quick on that game, shout out to Damar Hamlin. Shout out to Damar Hamlin for getting his first career interception. And it was on Monday Night Football. We all know what happened to him, a couple years ago on Monday Night Football. He had the whole cardiac arrest thing. I'm thankful that, he's not only alive but still playing the game that he loves to play. And he was able to get the interception last night. So shout out to him and much love towards him. And the Bills they're out here, quieting all the doubters. They're quieting all the doubters. They've silenced me. I didn't really, like I said, I didn't know what to expect with this Bills team, but they were able to not only get the victory, but resounding victory with a 47-10 victory to start the season 3-0. And then the Washington Commanders went to Cincinnati, and they upset the Cincinnati Bengals 38-33. Now, the Washington Commanders, I had a feeling that they were going to be one of those sleeper teams this year. I didn't know how, it was going to transpire, but I just had a feeling that with Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn, even though with his final years in Atlanta didn't end the way they wanted to, he's still a respectable head coach, and he kind of helped turn that Dallas defense into what it was before that Green Bay game. But, the Commanders, like I said, they're a real team that you have to watch out for, that you can't take lightly. And they scored on all their possessions last night, minus, that kneel down possession. But Jaden Daniels, they got something with him. They really do. I'm going to give him, a shout out to him as well on the Stomping on Business segment. But Washington got something for him. Washington got them someone. They got Jaden Daniels at the helm at the quarterback position. And I'm just hoping there's not an RG3 situation. I'll get to that later on. But yeah, that's the scores from this past week in the NFL. Shout out to all the teams that got the W, and to the teams that took an L. Regroup, look at the film, and shake back for next week. And real quick, just to give a quick roundup of all the news going on in the NFL today. Readings from NFL.com, wide receiver Adam Thielen, who has a hamstring injury, is being placed on injury reserve and will miss at least the next 4 games, NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reported per a source. And he suffered that injury in their win against the Raiders. Right tackle Trent Brown for the Cincinnati Bengals suffered a torn patellar tendon in his right knee and will undergo season-ending surgery, NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reported Tuesday per a source. So that's a huge blow for the Cincinnati Bengals O-line, but it is stated that he is expected to make a full recovery as well. And then the Miami Dolphins, their quarterback, Skylar Thompson, who is in place for Tua Tagovailoa, is now considered day-to-day with a rib injury. And according to head coach Mike McDaniel, the next 48 hours will determine his availability for Week 4. And really the last news was, like I stated earlier, center Eric McCoy for the New Orleans Saints will have surgery on his groin injury that will keep him out for at least the next 6 to 8 weeks. But like I stated, it's not season ending, and hopefully he'll be back for later on in the season. Now we're switching gears to my favorite segment on the show, and that's the Stomping on Business segment. So this is a segment where we give a shout out to the players that I felt like balled out this past week, and just show them some love. Just show them some love and, recognize them for the performance that they put on. So let's start off with the Carolina Panthers. And that's quarterback Andy Dalton. He completed 26 passes on 37 passing attempts, threw for 319 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now, I like Andy Dalton. He was with the Saints for that one season. He stepped in when, James was dealing with the back injuries. He stepped in and he had a respectable season. The team wasn't the best that year, but he had a respectable season. I got respect for him. And the fact that he was able to step in when Bryce Young got benched in that whole situation, which, I already gave my feelings about that whole thing. This is what they should have done from the start. This is what they should have done last year, because Andy Dalton was on the team with them last year. This is what they should have done. Had Andy Dalton start the first couple of weeks, then put Bryce Young into it when he's, learning the offense and got more comfortable. But hey, that's neither here nor there at this point. But yeah, Andy Dalton, shout out to him. He's proven to the NFL that he still got it, and he ultimately showed that yesterday. Now, really the question is, can they be able to sustain this with Carolina? And plus, will we ever see Bryce Young in the Carolina Panthers uniform? That remains to be seen, but if Andy Dalton continues to ball out like this, we may never see Bryce Young with the Carolina Panthers again. We'll see him in the NFL. It just won't be for the Panthers. Next person I want to give a shout out to is Josh Allen, quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. He completed 23 passes on 30 passing attempts for 263 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. He also carried the ball 6 times for 44 rushing yards. And let me tell you, Josh Allen, man, we got to give this man his props. I know people like to talk about how he's a gunslinger and he likes to, force things sometimes, and then him forcing things leads to, turnovers and all that. I get that. But we got to give this man his props because a lot of people going into this season were thinking like, well, Stephon Diggs, he's not on the team anymore. Will Josh Allen's production dip? Now, I ain't going to lie. I thought that his production was going to take a hit in a way, but I didn't think Josh Allen was just going to be a completely bad quarterback. I thought it was going to take a while for him to build chemistry with his receivers, but obviously that's not the case. I mean, Shakir, he's proven to be a pretty good receiver. Keon Coleman got his first touchdown for them yesterday. And the offense in general is just clicking. And for them to do that against the Jaguars, who were trying to, steer the tide a little bit, it was just great. It was just a great showing for Josh Allen last night, man. And just shout out to the Bills as well. Shout out to the whole Bills team, and they're not missing a beat. They're not missing a beat right now. So shout out to Josh Allen for stomping on business last night against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we're going to keep it with the Monday night game. Jaden Daniels for the Washington Commanders. He balled out. He was stomping on business last night. 21 passes on 21 completed passes on 28 passing attempts. Threw for 254 passing yards with 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now, and he also carried the ball 12 times for 39 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. And like I stated earlier, this man, Jaden Daniels, I don't want to say he's the savior for the Washington franchise right now, but if he continues to keep this up and this team continues to, keep winning games, come on now. Come on. Right now, I think he's the leader in the rookie of the year conversation. Because Caleb Williams, him and the Chicago Bears, they're struggling. And then who else is contention for? And then all the other starting rookie quarterbacks aren't really doing anything. So Jaden Daniels, he's really the only one that's been balling out in that rookie class at the quarterback position. Now, a lot of people, like I said, weren't high on Washington going into this year, and I understand why. Rookie quarterback, Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator, had a rough time with the Cardinals being their head coach. But Jaden Daniels, like I said, the way he's been able to play with the Commanders and lead this team, like last night, perfect example. He was, that final drive, not the final drive of the game, but like that drive where they basically had the game-sealing touchdown where he threw it to Terry McLaurin. He was basically like urging his players, like, let's go, come on, get on the field. For a rookie quarterback to do that and to have the poise and confidence that he had last night, man, like I said, Washington has them something with this. Washington has the quarterback of the future. And like I said, I'm hoping it's not another RG3 situation. Now, what I mean by that is Washington thought they had somebody in Robert Griffin III. But then what happened? He got injured. His career was never the same after that. But he had a stellar rookie year. And then in the playoffs, in this rookie season, he got hurt. Wasn't the same RG3 from his rookie season. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping there's no catastrophic injury for Jaden Daniels. I'm hoping that he's able to, play the rest of the way, play a good career, and just be that guy for the Washington Commanders. But like I said, he's been proving it lately. He's been proving it these last couple games, and like I said, Washington has them a good quarterback in their quarterback room. So those were the players I thought were stomping on business this past week. Andy Dalton for the Carolina Panthers, Josh Allen for the Buffalo Bills, and then Jaden Daniels for the Washington Commanders. Now let's switch gears to the other segment for today's episode, and that's the dripping or sinking segment, where I highlight a team from the AFC and the NFC, whether they're dripping or they're sinking. So 2 teams in each division. One team is dripping, and one team is sinking. So let's start off with the team that's dripping so far. And the AFC, it was a toss up. I was gonna say the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I gotta go with the Buffalo Bills, man. The Buffalo Bills, I gave them their love in the last segment. They're just out here just shocking the world right now. They really are. A lot of people probably weren't expecting them to do what they've been doing these last couple games, and especially last night. I did not expect them to basically dismantle the Jacksonville Jaguars like that. I really didn't. But like I said, they're clicking on all cylinders. Josh Allen is, continuing to still be a great quarterback. Their defense is still, being a pretty good defense, and like I said, the overall team is just clicking. And if they can keep this up for the rest of the year, they're gonna be not only a playoff threat but a huge Super Bowl contender going into the postseason. And then for the NFC, the team that's dripping right now really is the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings, man, same thing with Buffalo. Now, granted, Buffalo, I expect them to still be a competitive team, but with Minnesota, once J.J. McCarthy went down, I didn't really know what to expect from this team. I really didn't. But Sam Darnold, man, it's a great story. It really is a great story. He was drafted by the Jets in the 2018 draft. Things didn't really pan out for him, and it wasn't his fault at all. Wasn't his fault. It was the organization and just the coaching. Just wasn't good for Sam Darnold. It wasn't good for him, and he left it. He left that environment. He went to Carolina. He had a pretty good stint with them. Went to back up Brock Purdy last season. Now he's with the Minnesota Vikings. He has the starting gig, and he's been balling out. Now, he did get, kind of banged up this past week. He had a bruised knee, but reports are saying that it's not too major, and he should be good to go for next week. But like I stated, Sam Darnold and his Minnesota team, man, they're balling out. And it's not just the offense, it's the defense as well. I was not expecting them to hold the Houston Texans to 7 points this past week. I thought it was going to be one of those games where they were competitive. I picked the Minnesota Vikings to win, but I didn't expect it to be a 27-point game. But shout out to Minnesota, man. They're dripping out. They're dripped out. And they're continuing to, like the Buffalo Bills, shock the NFL world right now. So those are the two teams that are dripping right now. But let's get to the teams that are currently sinking. In the AFC, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I thought about talking about Cincinnati, but I still think Cincinnati is going to be able to bounce back from this poor start. They're 0-3, but they've had slow starts in the last couple seasons. So I think they'll be able to bounce back and ultimately, get things going in the right direction. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, man, the reason why I picked them was because I honestly thought last night was going to be the night that they made things competitive with the Buffalo Bills. But Trevor Lawrence, no disrespect to him, but the fact that you pay him all that money and he hasn't really done anything for your franchise in the last couple of seasons ever since he got drafted, it's just showing its ugly head right now. And they're 0-3. It's like they're not able to get good continuity going on offense, and the defense they couldn't stop the Bills last night. And then they were banged up in the secondary too. But this is a bad start for Jacksonville. A lot of people thought that Jacksonville was going to, bounce back from that poor showing to end the season last year. But they haven't done it. They haven't been the same since Thanksgiving last year. I don't know if the turkey was bad for them, but they haven't been the same, man. And this is my thing with Trevor Lawrence. I like the guy. I liked him coming out of college. I thought he was going to be a revelation for the Jacksonville Jaguars. But the fact that they paid him that money and he really hasn't done anything, that I don't want to say it bothered me, but when I saw the news, I was like, wait a minute. So this man is getting paid this money, but he's only had one playoff win. Now, credit to him, that playoff win was a, heroic type of win where they were down, I believe it was 3 scores going to halftime, but then they ultimately came back and ended up being the Los Angeles Chargers. But yeah, things aren't going too well in Duval right now, but it's still early in the season. It's a long season, and they can still, make things happen, but it's not looking too good for them. Then the NFC. It's the Dallas Cowboys. The Carolina Panthers, they're actually, showing a little fight. But the Dallas Cowboys, man, I'll give them credit where credit's due. They made the game, respectable against the Ravens. They came back and they made the score look more respectable than it was. But this team is still, you can tell that this team is starting to show some like cracks in the on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. You got Michael Parsons calling out his teammates, and you got on the sideline you had CeeDee Lamb kind of going there with Dak. Well, I don't want to say going there, but it was like a disagreement between the two, and it's just not looking too good for the Cowboys. It's not even that happening right now. It's the fact that the cracks are starting to show within the team, and the fact that they've been almost embarrassed in 3 straight home games. Now, granted, they gave the home fans some life this past Sunday when they were, starting to, try to come back. But besides that, if you take into account what happened against them with Green Bay last year, the Cowboys haven't been playing well in Jerry World. They haven't been playing well at the AT&T Stadium, AT&T Center, whatever it's called. But I just don't know what's going on with Dallas right now. I really don't. I ain't mad at it. I'm really not. But it's just one of the things where you went through this whole offseason basically stalling on paying Dak and CD. You paid both of them, and now your 2 highest paid people on your team basically were kind of going there on the sideline. CD's getting frustrated. Mike is getting frustrated. DeMarcus Lawrence and the defense getting frustrated. Dak getting frustrated. Jerry Jones, he getting frustrated too. So I don't know what's going on with the Cowboys, man. Offensively, it's not Dak's fault. It's really not. But it's more of a defensive issue than it is an offensive issue. Because the defense, they couldn't stop, Alvin Kamara and the Saints in week 2. Then they couldn't stop Derrick Henry this past week. So now it's like, what's going on? Now, granted, they played the Giants this Thursday night. I'll talk about that in Thursday's episode. But I'm going to be honest. If they end up losing to the Giants, who had a pretty good showing against Cleveland, but if they end up losing to the Giants, man, I don't know. But yeah, those are the teams that are sinking right now in the AFC and NFC. The AFC is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then NFC is the Dallas Cowboys. But let's go ahead and switch gears to some college football real quick. So real quick, just want to look at the standings in the SWAC division. Right now, Florida A&M, Jackson State, and Alabama A&M are tied with a 2-2 record in the SWAC Eastern Conference. And then Alabama State is behind those 3 teams with a 1-2 record. And so far, Bethune-Cookman and Mississippi Valley State are 0-4. And then on the Western Division, in the SWAC division, Southern has a 2-2 record. They're leading the way right now, while Texas Southern has a 1-2 record. And Grambling has a 3-1 record. But the reason that they're like third is because conference play. Southern is 1-0 in their conference right now. So the SWAC division is kind of getting a little interesting right now, especially with, later on in the season, the conference play will eventually start. And before I go into, like, the main college football stuff, I just want to talk about JSU real quick. And that game against Grambling was a game that we honestly should have won. We should have won that game, but it was just what hurt Jackson State was that drive in the second quarter going into halftime, that last drive before halftime, and McCoy ended up throwing the interception. And that ultimately hurt us in the end. We tried, recovering from it a little bit, but ultimately the game was decided at that point, and JSU ended up losing. But I do think JSU will bounce back against Alabama A&M and get the victory against them. But this team is talented. The JSU Tigers, they're a really talented football team. It's just a matter of, getting away from the mistakes and the penalties. The penalties were also a huge factor in that game. But so staying away from the mistakes and the penalties, and I think Jackson State will be all right. And that's for the top 25 teams according to the Associated Press. No real changes. Texas is still the number 1 spot, while Georgia is number 2. The only real, change according to, the spots, Michigan went up 6 spots to the number 12 spot. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma both dropped 6 spots respectfully. Oklahoma State is now the number 20 spot, while Oklahoma is at the number 21 spot. And then Boise State, they were previously unranked, but they're now in the Associated Press top 25 at the number 25 spot. And before we get to the NBA side of things, I just want to give a quick shout out to Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. They had a pretty crazy game against Baylor. They had a crazy game. I watched the final minutes of that game. Shedeur Sanders scrambled out the pocket when it looked like the game was going to go in favor of Baylor. He threw it up. His receiver caught the Hail Mary pass. They go into overtime. They went down the field and scored. And then Baylor, right when they were about to answer, Colorado scoring overtime, Travis Hunter forced the fumble right at the goal line, and the ball went out of, well, not out of bounds, but like behind the end zone for a touchback, and Colorado ultimately won the game. So, shout out to the Colorado Buffaloes, man. They're 3-1, and let's see if they can keep up the momentum as the season progresses. Now, let's switch gears to the NBA, and let's talk about the Chicago Bulls real quick. And reading this from BleacherNation.com, we got some news in regards to Zach LaVine and his role on the team for this upcoming season. It says, according to the Athletics' Darnell Mayberry, Zach LaVine has been nothing short of professional in the ramp-up to the regular season. Not only has he reportedly participated in optional mini-camps with his new Bulls teammates, but he has seemingly assured the front office that he'll buy into the franchise's new direction. This is what Mayberry wrote. He said, and I quote, now, there are legitimate questions on how LaVine fits on the team with young talent emerging. But in off-season conversations with Bulls leadership, including Coach Billy Donovan, LaVine has vowed not to overstep or stunt the development of younger players, according to the team source. Now, my reaction to that is I'm happy. I'm happy to hear that. I really am, because during this offseason there was like reports about how LaVine, isn't happy and all that. But there was just a side of me that was just holding out hope that him and the front office would kind of like repair things for the better of the team, man. It sounds like they kind of, hash things up a little bit, and this is great because Zach LaVine, when healthy, is one of the best guards in the NBA, and having him not only healthy but bought in is great for the Chicago Bulls, especially with Lonzo hopefully coming back and Josh Giddey, throwing him alley-oops and getting him open and all that. It's gonna be great for the Bulls. Now we got some not so good news when it comes to the Bulls real quick. That's in regards to Patrick Williams. And this is what Mayberry wrote. This is a separate article. It's still BleacherNation.com, but this is what he wrote in regards to Patrick Williams. He said, and I quote, but Williams experienced discomfort during the team's minicamp in Miami and required additional rest in recent weeks, Mayberry wrote. His availability is the biggest unknown in the short term. Long term, the setback forces one to wonder whether Williams will be able to assemble a breakout season given his lengthy layoff. He last appeared in the game on January 25th and hasn't played much 5-on-5 since. Now, it later reads, to provide a little bit of context on that, it later reads, and I quote, to be clear, the team minicamp Darnell Mayberry mentioned happened a month ago in Florida. Many of the players, including Zach LaVine, met for some chemistry building and regular season preparation. So while it's possible the rest in recent weeks allows him to begin training camp in October at full speed, it sure doesn't bode well that he's already dealt with some on-court discomfort. So, when I heard that yesterday, I was kind of scared, but now that we got some context on what he was talking about, I'm kind of not as concerned as I was at first, because now it's a matter of where Patrick Williams has gotten some time off, and now he's able to, hopefully be ready to go for training camp. But it still sucks for Patrick Williams because I'm expecting a really good season for him. If he can just stay healthy, he has the potential. He really has the potential, but it's all about health at the end of the day. And I'm just hoping that he's able to, get ready for training camp and be ready to go for the start of the season. And last thing in regards to the Chicago Bulls. Yesterday it was announced that the Memphis Grizzlies were releasing guard Derrick Rose. This is a message personally to the Chicago Bulls. I know this team is going in a different direction. I get that. I get this team is going young. But we have to sign Derrick Rose. We have to sign Derrick Rose. And I don't care if he doesn't see the court this whole season. If he's just on the bench in a Bulls uniform, just being a player coach like Udonis Haslem has been for the Miami Heat during his late stage of his career, if Derrick Rose can just be that would be great for the team. Now, granted, you're going to have to give up a spot for that, but that's okay. Okay? That's okay. Come on, Chicago. Make things right. Make things right. Sign Derrick Rose home. Bring him back. Like I said, I don't care if he just plays a minute during the season. If he could just, be that veteran role player for the Chicago Bulls, if he can just be that veteran presence for the team, come on now. I guess it's wishful thinking because the roster's pretty much set at this point. But come on, man. Just sign D Rose. Sign him home, man. Just sign him home. But that's just all I'm asking for the Bulls organization. But that's really everything as of right now for the Chicago Bulls. Now let's talk about the Golden State Warriors. Now this is a team that I got a lot of respect for because during my really childhood, from in the 2010s, they were basically running things through. They were running over people. They were constantly in the finals. During really my whole elementary year, they were in the finals. So from me being from third grade all the way till I think really my seventh grade year, because that was the last year that they made the finals for a while. But really my upper elementary years to like early middle school years, they were in the finals. And that just goes to show how great that team was and how great that dynasty was. Now, granted, things have kind of happened with Golden State. You know, Draymond, the Jordan Poole situation, plus KD, you know, left the team because, you know, some friction between him and Draymond and all that. But this team did end up making it back to the finals. But like I stated, the Draymond and Jordan Poole situation kind of, you know, put the team in a weird situation after that. It felt like things were never right after that incident happened. And now they're looking to, you know, at least try to get back to the playoffs. Maybe not the finals, but at least make it back to the playoffs. So, looking at the things that they did this offseason, they re-signed Steph Curry to a one-year extension, while also agreeing to a 3-year deal with Kyle Anderson. They got Buddy Hield in a signing trade, so that's basically their new Klay Thompson. That's the replacement for Klay. They also signed Anthony Milton as well. And then the departures, they released Chris Paul. Dario Saric ended up signing with the Nuggets, and then, like I stated, Klay Thompson ended up going to the Mavs in the signing trade. So, the Golden State Warriors, there's still talent there. There's still a lot of talent on the team. You still have Steph Curry, Podziemski. You know, he stepped up last year as well. And then Jonathan Kuminga, can't forget about him. He's, you know, on the verge of, you know, taking that next step. Draymond Green, I get it. I understand. He has a reputation. Okay, he has a reputation, but he's still one of those leaders on that team. He's still a veteran presence on that team. If he could just tone down, okay, if he could just tone it down a bit on the court, if he can, you know, don't do what Draymond normally does, basically, in a negative sense. Like last year, the man straight up choked Rudy Gobert. like, come on now, the man straight up, you know, put that man in a whole WWE move. He put him in a whole chokehold. So if he can just, you know, calm it down a little bit and just contain his emotions, then this team will be straight. They'll be straight. If he can just, you know, do that with the players and with the refs, because we all know he can get into it with the refs sometimes. But if he can just tone that down, that'll be good for him. But Golden State, I don't know. I really don't know about this team because, like I say, they have talent, but like I said, with almost all the Western Conference teams that I've talked about, this Western Conference is deep. So even though like they made the playing tournament, but they weren't good enough to make the playoffs. So I think it'll be another situation like that where they make the playing tournament, but it's going to be an uphill battle for them to not only make the playoffs, but make some noise in the playoffs as well. But as long as you have Steph Curry, you know, still hitting the three-pointers, as long as you know, have a good, you know, system going, because even though they don't have Klay, they have Buddy Hield, who's a pretty respectable three-point shooter himself. So, excuse me, if they're able to, you know, like I said, get things going offensively and, you know, still be able to rack up points and play some good defense, I think Golden State should be a team to be, I don't want to say reckoned with, but a team that should be respected going into this season. Now, like I said, the one X factor for this team is Kuminga and Draymond. If those two can, you know, step up, then they'll be straight. Now, Draymond, let's face it, he ain't going to be a huge difference maker, but just like his veteran presence on the court will help out a lot, because let's remember, he was suspended for a good amount last year because of, you know, the whole on the court issues and all that. So if he can just, you know, like I said, stay out of trouble and, you know, be a good contribution for the team, then Golden State should be a pretty respectable team going into the season. So that's all I got for you guys today. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. Like I said, Tuesdays and Thursdays, as opposed to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's the new schedule. And I'm going to continue to give you guys the best content I can give y'all. So, again, appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. And as always, KGF, keep God first. Love each other. Treat each other right. And remember, the energy that you give to people will eventually come back to you. So, always give out good energy and that good energy will come back to you. So, like I said, appreciate you guys again for tuning in and listening. And love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Peace. I'm out.